the last question that I have here is, sorry, what are different types of EQ? This is a very good question, and it's how can I say? We can have a lot of different types of EQ. I know at least 5 or 6. So let's go through some of them. And this is the tool that I like the most. If you don't know by now, this is one of the questions that I answered today. But let's see. If I right click here, or not right click, yeah, if I put my mouse here, I want you to focus on this area here, which is the hint panel. This is the panel that you will use a lot in FL Studio, because it's the panel that will give you some information about what is the knob that you might click on. So if I go here, it says play/pause. So this is a very important knob, and whenever you don't know about something, you can just put the mouse where you can put the mouse or the pointer in a place, and it will give you. For instance, this says view playlist. So we have low shelf. Let's go to the last one, which is disable. Then we have low pass, and low pass basically means that we can have low frequencies passing through. So everything that is not low from this point on here, which is the cutoff frequency, and everything that is above this will be reduced with this curve here, and this could be order band 1, order 2. I guess this could be let me see here, -6. So this might be a second order plugin or EQ. I would have to double check that. But basically what it says here is that this is this point 1 here, this frequency of 918 Hertz is the cutoff frequency, which means that is the frequency from which the frequencies will be cut, and in this case will be cut 6 dBs. So at this point, the frequencies will be off or down 6 dBs, and everything above will have this curve here. So if you want to remove high frequencies, you just apply a low pass filter, and you can move around. And there's also resonance that you can add. And as you can see here, the resonance basically just makes the cutoff frequency really high in this point here, and you can make the resonance go really low or really high. Okay, or I don't know if I said it in the correct way, but you can see the effect. Next up, we have the band pass filter. The band pass usually is how it sounds. It's just it lets a band pass through. And basically what it does is that it cuts everything below this band here, and it cuts everything above this band here. So again, this point here will always be the cutoff frequency. I don't think it's the name cutoff frequency for the band path, but we can call it cutoff frequency, or the point at which the filter will start applying equalization. And again, we can make the resonance shorter or higher, and it will include more frequencies in this band here. Okay, then we have a high pass filter, and the high pass filter basically is the opposite of the low pass filter. This lets the high frequencies pass, and this removes the low frequencies. So let's say you record a vocal, and the vocal has a lot of boominess, a lot of low end. What you do, you apply a high pass filter so that you can cut some of the low frequencies and just let the high frequencies pass through. Then we have the notch, and the notch basically you cannot change the as you can see here, the gain frequency or the gain knob disappeared because you cannot change the frequency or the gain, sorry. You can change the frequency, you can change the resonance again, or the bandwidth in this case, and it will make it a very short notch or a very wide notch, or yeah, and this will pretty much cut all these frequencies in this specific point. This is good when you have some resonance that you want to get rid of, and you can just see or check what frequency you want to cut, and then you apply a notch and you put there, and it cuts everything in that area, and you can pretty much clean your audio in that way, or get rid of some frequencies that you find offensive, let's say. Then we have the low shelf. The low shelf, basically, it's a little bit like a high pass filter, but basically the low shelf gives us some control over the gain of the reduction. Like we saw in the let me open up another so that I can visually help show you a little bit better. Okay, let's go with a low pass or a high pass, actually. And as you can see here, I have no control over the gain. The gain knob here disappeared. In the low shelf, I have control over that gain, but I can either go down like this, so remove the frequencies, but I can also increase or boost the frequencies. So this gives me a little bit more control, and in this case, this lets through the frequencies, or the high frequencies, but in this case, I'm boosting the low frequencies. So the low shelf allows me to boost or decrease the frequencies below this cutoff frequency, or this point which I set the frequency to. Okay. The next one that we have is probably a high shelf. No, we have here the picking, and picking is the one that I use the most when I'm trying to correct frequencies in the audio that I'm mixing or equalizing. And basically this allows me to either boost whatever part I want or decrease every part that I want. And I, of course, can set the bandwidth also to be a very short bandwidth. And for instance, if I do this sounds or looks like a peak, a notch. Where is the notch? Here. So I can do pretty much the same thing here. And as you can see, I have here the notch, and it looks pretty much like the same. And you can pretty much simulate a notch with a peaking with a very narrow bandwidth. And of course, the thing with the notch is that you cannot change the gain. As you can see here, the gain knob was gone. And here I can do the inverse of a notch, which I don't know the name, but you can pretty much boost this frequency, and in this case is 18 dB. So that's it. Let's go to the next one, which is the high shelf. And the high shelf is basically the opposite of the low shelf, like the low pass is the opposite of the high pass. And here, again, I can cut the high frequencies, and I can boost the high frequencies, and I can change this curve by changing the bandwidth knob here, and as you can see. And lastly, no, that's it. That's the last EQ type. So I said that it was like 5 or 6 EQs, and I think that's it. So we can have a bunch of fun with this type of EQs, and we can do a lot with this type of with all these EQs. So everything has its own place, its own purpose, and of course you can mimic some of the stuff. For instance, you can do a high pass with a low shelf, and you can do a low pass with a high shelf. So you can go with both, and you can do a notch with a peaking EQ. So there's several ways to do the same thing to achieve the same result. But yeah, that's it.